Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of r/ProRevenge. My name is Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's top stories. Before I do though, you already know I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button, as well as make sure you got notifications turned on. That way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. Try to steal our $400 security deposit by being a dick? Fine. Now you can pay us $1,300. So, this story takes place like 5 years ago, when my husband and I were broke college students with a young baby. We worked hard to afford our shitty little duplex at $600 a month in necessities, while trying to finish our degrees to one day get ahead. Our duplex was one in an entire neighborhood owned by a large company and managed by a super sketchy married couple who lived on the same street. Before our kid was born, we did the normal excited new parent thing of painting his nursery and decorating. Our lease stated we needed permission to paint, which we obtained from the property manager, the husband of the couple, and he insisted it would be fine. Being young and naive, we didn't get it in writing because he was so chill about it. So we paint and move on with our lives. A little while later, our lease is up and we had given notice to vacate as we're moving closer to my husband's school. The property manager was understanding, everything was fine, and we scheduled our move-out inspection. Prior to this inspection, we specifically asked him for the name of the paint color we needed to use when repainting the nursery. He flat out refused to give it, saying it was unnecessary to paint as we'd been there so long that they'd be painting the whole duplex anyway. Okay, cool. Move-out inspection day comes and goes. We left the house in better shape than we found it, aside from a small area of torn carpet right along a seam and a doorway. The property manager inspected and said everything looked great and we should get our whole deposit back. $400 minus a few bucks for the torn carpet. Sounds good, boss. Enter a period of weeks where we waited and waited for our deposit, eventually leaving messages upon messages with false promises or no return calls at all. Eventually, over a month later, this culminated in a phone call with the property manager where he said, and I remember this almost verbatim, "I don't know what you're so worried about anyway. It's only like $200 you're getting back." He cited the painted nursery and the huge mess left behind as deductions, to which I coldly informed him that we'd be going to court because we didn't feel we owed for those reasons. The place was spotless when we left it, aside from the 6-pack of beer we left him in the fridge for being chill. Not 1 hour later, he called back and miraculously our refund check had just shown up in the mail. Already knowing he was trying to fuck us, we installed a recording app on my phone, one-party consent state, and went to the office. The check indeed was only for $200 of our deposit and included no list of what they charged us for. Important detail. We intentionally goaded him into admitting that he had told us not to paint the house and that it looked great to move on out, and went on our happy way. Revenge plan already began unfolding. We didn't cash the check and instead emailed the CEO of the entire property company, copying in the property manager and detailing the entire process. The CEO sent back a smartass email with a cute little typed up list of deductions, including all the things we were specifically told we wouldn't be on the hook for. A fun detail was that even by his own math, they owed us $230 of our deposit. No one really had an answer for why they then tried to issue a check for $200, but whatever. Joke was on him, because we began digging through all the state regulations on security deposits and refunds, hoping to prove that our length to stay meant he couldn't charge us for wear and tear, things like carpet cleaning, etc., and in our search, we happened upon a statute requiring landlords to return security deposit refunds in an itemized list of deductions within 30 days, or lose the right to withhold for actual damages and be subject to treble damages if the landlord is thought to be maliciously withholding the refund. So we typed up a demand letter for our entire security deposit, citing the statute, which he had broken, because we didn't receive any refund offer or itemized list until 6 weekends later, and when he sent a smartass reply, we filed in small claims court for our entire deposit plus treble damages and court costs. Now, I don't know if it's clear at this point, but I can be really petty if I feel like someone is trying to mess me over. And it was clear that this guy made a career out of stealing money from low-income renters who could likely never afford to fight it. I was pissed. I spent the next month before our court date compiling all email correspondence, in which he'd effed himself over numerous times by providing written documentation that he exceeded time limits, charged incorrect amounts, etc., and I also compiled phone records showing dozen upon dozens of unanswered and unreturned calls to the property manager, and detailed accounts I'd made immediately after hanging up of lies on the property manager. I printed out a screenshot from the company's own website detailing the CEO's role as the legal advisor, so I could innocently claim, shouldn't he have known the statutes for these issues? And I printed all the relevant statutes and highlighted all the important parts. Then I made 3 copies of everything and nicely compiled each in a binder with sleeve protectors and page numbers. One for our own reference, one for the a-hole property manager and/or CEO, we weren't sure who was going to show up, and one for the judge himself. We also took our handy little recording of the property manager admitting to all of the things they lied about and then pretended to have never said. Needless to say, the judge laughed at how prepared we were, asked if we were law students, and then awarded us treble damages and court fees as well as interest. I will never forget the CEO's face when he looked over and we smiled at him. All his a-hole emails and disregard for the law were on the table. And rather than giving us the original $350 or so we were promised from our deposit, he ended up paying us over $1,300 a month later. It was glorious. Edit. I completely forgot until my husband and I were just laughing hysterically about this, but the CEO also filed his response to our suit with a counterclaim for $1,225 for expenses incurred as a result of the actions of plaintiff. He never really said how he got to that number, but in his last email before we sued, he did say, "I hope we can avoid litigation in this matter, but we will engage aggressively if forced to do so." LOL. I wasn't sure if people would love this story as much as I do, but here we are. So I'm including my husband's final email to the CEO before court. Damn, he has a way with words. Now I sure hope the editor puts the email on screen because I'm going to read it aloud for all of you to end this story. April 24th, 2014. Mr. Fuckface. This afternoon, we will be filing a case in small claims court against the corporation you represent, Mr. Fuckface Incorporated, by not returning our security deposit within 30 days of the end of the lease, without providing an itemized list of deductions within the same time period. You have violated GA Code 44734. Per OCGA and 44735, you thereby forfeit any right to withhold any portion of the security deposit. Additionally, we are entitled to sue for up to 3 times the amount illegally withheld, unless you can show by a preponderance of the evidence that this was an accident. Our phone records show well over a dozen unreturned phone calls. The fact that the check was not dated until the 6th of April, 7 days after the 30-day deadline, the fact that the check was not made available to us until the 16th of April, 17 days after the deadline, as well as the fact that your company deducted $200 from the deposit despite only having $170 in documented damages, shows quite clearly that this was not an honest mistake. We tried to deal with this outside of court, and we asked for only $382. Because of your failure to meet our reasonable request, despite your obvious violation of the law, we will now be suing for $1,425. $400 security deposit plus $75 refundable pet deposit, 3. Plus $18.91 for certified letter costs. Plus interests on the amount owed determined by date of judgment, plus costs of legal process, estimated $85. We tried to settle this amicably, and for a small amount. Now we will settle this legally, and for the maximum amount allowed by law. We have no desire to settle outside of court for any amount less than $1,425, plus all costs already incurred. There is no need for you to contact us. Sincerely, user/might-as-well's husband. Summer Camp Revenge. This is my first post here, so apologies if something's out of whack. This happened close to 20 years ago, so my memory of certain parts are a bit hazy. It's a long story with some twists and turns, but the payoff's worth it. Now, buckle up, 'cause we're going for a ride. Background. I'm 16 and about to graduate high school. 2 weeks before the end of class, I get approached by a teacher and offered a position at a summer camp. We'll call this teacher Haram. Now, Haram is a family friend, as both of my parents are teachers within the same school board and have quite a bit of seniority. Hiram's focus was on troubled kids who couldn't function or succeed in a normal curriculum. He created a program within my high school to help keep these kids succeeding and learning trades. I wasn't one of his students, but I crossed paths with him in and outside of school. The job I'm being offered is as a waiter at an upscale Jewish summer camp. It consisted of setting up each dinner hall before a meal, serving food to the kids and staff, and then cleaning the dining hall and prepping for the next day. My direct boss would be the head waiter who's supposed to be reporting to the camp assistant director. The pay was good, and I was to get 6 days off in the 7 weeks I'd be up there. I figured why not? I'll get away for the summer, make some money, and I was able to use the camp facilities in between shifts. I get hired and am given my start date, which is about 3 days before my prom. Haram, of course, knows this and assures me that the camp has a policy of allowing paid time off for proms and not to worry. The story! I get up to camp, meet the people I'm going to be working with, and discover that while I'm a waiter working for the camp, the kitchen's run by a catering company that the camp has contracted out to handle all of the food purchasing and prep. The caterer/owner, who we'll call Dickon, hires his own staff to stock the food, cook it, and manage all the dishes. Now Dickon has this stock boy, who we'll call Clarence, and he's Dickon's right-hand man. Dickon's in his late 30s and Clarence in his late 20s. Remember this. Dickon and Clarence give us a tour of the kitchen and then sit us all down for a chat. Dickon explains that the kitchen is his kingdom, and if we look out for him, he'll take care of us. He then tells us to take any issues we have and day off requests to Clarence. I'm a bit confused at this point because this is not what I've been told. I've always been a by-the-books person. I figure I'll play ball though because I want to make a good impression and approach Clarence to let him know my prom and that I'll be taking 2 days off for it. Clarence then looks me up and down and says he can't let me take 2 days, but he might be willing to let me have 1 if I can prove to be a hard worker and a team player. I'm like, WTF, this is not what I was guaranteed, and I am not missing my prom. I decide the best course of action is to go speak with the head waiter to clear this up. Turns out he's useless and did whatever Clarence and Dickon told him to do. Went and spoke with Dickon, who said he'd think about it and get back to me. At this point, I go, "F off this, I don't work for you," and go see Haram. Now, one important thing to know is that Haram and Dickon hate each other. Haram manages the camp infirmary. One of his many jobs is to hire the real bona fide doctors to treat the kids and staff. Every year, the doctors start seeing spikes of kids getting sick after about 2 weeks, and they suspect it's malnutrition. Haram is pretty sure the malnutrition stems from the poor quality of food coming out of the kitchen and has voiced many times to the camp director. Dickon, in retaliation, managed to turn quite a few waiters against Haram. The waiters were all former students of Haram's, and it hurt him a lot. Some of them would even go to work directly for Dickon in and outside of the camp. Dickon also has a god complex and doesn't like people telling him how to do things, and went after anyone who went to the camp directorship about anything. I go see Haram about my days off for prom. He gets this sour look on his face and says he'll take care of it. The next day, the camp assistant director comes into the kitchen, speaks with Dickon and Clarence, then tells me my days off are approved and wishes me a good prom. I think, great, start working for the next few days and then leave for prom. FYI, it ended on a really sour note and my entire graduating class got kicked out of our hotel. But that's a story for another day. I get back up to camp, excited to get back to work and forget about the shit show of my prom, and things start off well. I'm a pretty extroverted person, so I make friends with the other waiters easily. And it turns out I was a pretty damn good waiter and quickly became the unofficial backup head waiter. Myself and the other waiter are managing the entire dining hall to ourselves, 30 plus tables, while the other 8 managed the second dining hall. We'd do our shifts, then head back to our bunks and chill out during time off. But we were actively discouraged from venturing out of the camp proper by Clarence. I thought this was weird, but since none of my new friends wanted to go out, I stayed in. What I didn't know at the time is while I was away, Clarence asserted his authority over the other waiters by pretty much treating them like crap unless they did what he wanted. They were keeping him happy so they didn't get stuck with the real shit jobs. Another thing I didn't know was that Clarence loved being the center of attention with kids and hated someone taking the spotlight away from him. He'd be giving out cookies and snacks all the time so kids would come see him and go out during meals to get the other kids to cheer for him. I love kids, so I'd be goofing around with them at mealtime, having fun and doing things with the tables for the kids. I also started making friends with some of the actual camp staff, and this didn't go unnoticed by Clarence, but also by the camp management. A waiter making friends with the staff was very uncommon at this camp. The staff were all from very well-off Jewish families. Most ex-campers and the waiters were mostly F-ups with attitude issues and were looked down on. Clarence and Dickon used this to keep waiters away from the rest of the camp, and also to keep what was going on in the kitchen quiet from the camp director. A few weeks into camp, I get approached by the assistant director and get offered a position in the camp proper, working in a bunk to help oversee kids. I stupidly said no. I was enjoying what I was doing and didn't want to leave my new friends. At this point, no one had had a day off. Clarence is holding him hostage to get people to do more shit work for him, and we're getting tired. No one wants to go talk to him, though, because they're afraid they'll get stuck cleaning out the garbage compactor. The worst job. I go speak with him and flat out get told that no one's earned a day off and not to ask again. At this point, I'm starting to lose my cool with Clarence. This stock boy is not my boss, but is somehow refusing to let me take a day off and is treating my friends like crap. I was largely left alone up to this point, and around this time, Clarence pulls the stunt that crosses the line with me. All the waiters have rooms in a large trailer-like thing. Clarence comes in one evening, kicks everyone out of the trailer, and tells us he's going to search our rooms for stolen items. He puts on rubber gloves, and he starts going through everyone's rooms one by one. People are freaking out, worried about what he's doing. So I get on the phone with Haram, and within 10 minutes, he and the assistant director come tearing over, demanding to know what's going on. He spins some BS about a cook complaining that something was stolen, and since no one admitted to the theft, he was searching rooms. He's told to stop and that he doesn't have any authority and any issues that need to be brought up to the camp director's attention. That once they leave, Dickon shows up and him and Clarence sit us down and tell us that when they find out who went to the director, they'd be sorry. I'm thinking something needs to be done, but everyone's too afraid to go speak to the only people who can do something about it. Except me. I need ammunition, and I need backup. I spent the night thinking and plotting and formed a plan. This plan would be rough on me, but the payoff was worth it. I knew I could count on Haram to back me up, but I needed something big for him to go to the camp with. His animosity with Dickon was well known in the camp, and it had something that couldn't be ignored. I had to push Clarence into doing something over the top. Step 1 was taking the spotlight away from Clarence with the kids and staff. I started venturing out into the camp, doing activities with the kids in my spare time, hanging out with the staff more and doing bigger things during meals to entertain kids and staff. They started coming to see me instead of him, and he hated that. I started getting the crappier jobs, having to stay later in the kitchen to clean, and things were working, but it wasn't enough. I needed to push things further. My participation in camp activities caught the eye of a few supervisors and program directors, and they started chatting with me and asked me to attend some of the bigger camp activities, which pissed Clarence off even more. Suddenly, my waiter friends aren't talking to me very much, and some start getting hostile towards me. He started turning my friends against me. Still not enough. I need to pull out the big guns. I still haven't gotten a day off. Because I've become so visible in the camp, it's noticed that I haven't taken a day off. Program directors are curious about this, and I tell them it's been hard to get one. Boom! The assistant director gets involved, demanding to know why no one's getting a day off, and Clarence gets in shit. Days off are reinstated. Clarence is furious. I'm pretty sure I've pushed him far enough to do something stupid. I just didn't realize how bad it was going to be. After a meal service, and I'm done cleaning dining hall. At this point, I'm having to clean them by myself. Dickon and Clarence pull me outside. They tell me they know I'm the one that's been going to the camp directors and that some people are pissed off, and if I don't keep my mouth shut and head down for the next few weeks, they won't guarantee my safety. These two mother effers just threatened a 16-year-old with physical violence. I'm freaking out, but I had my ammo. I go to Haram and tell him what happened. He's livid, tells me he'll do what he can, and asks for a transfer to the infirmary immediately. I go request the transfer and tell the assistant director what happened. He's skeptical, but he'll investigate, and tells me to keep my head down until he gets back to me. 2 days later, the assistant director and the camp director come storming into the kitchen. They grab Dickon and Clarence, take them to an office, and ream into them. They come to me next, tell me that today was my last day as a waiter, and I'd be starting at the infirmary next morning doing triage. I get this massive send-off from the supervisors, PDs, and the assistant director thanking me for being such a great waiter at my last service, and I spend my last couple of weeks working a great job with an offer to join the camp drama staff next summer. I'm happy and waiting to see what happens. Turns out, a massive investigation was launched. The camp director got involved after hearing about the threat and managed to get the other waiters to tell him what had been going on with Clarence. It was also discovered the reason why Clarence was tearing people's rooms apart that night was because he lost some weed and thought someone stole it. Dickon was told that if he wanted to keep his contract with the camp, Clarence would no longer be working for him here. He got fired. Clarence also worked with Dickon in school cafeterias. When word of what he did spread, he was not allowed to work in those cafeterias anymore, thanks to Haram. Dickon was kept on a very short leash moving forward, and the camp waiters were treated much better as a result. I stayed at the camp for another 5 years, eventually running their drama program. A few years later, I moved into my first apartment and started going to this little sandwich shop on the corner, and you'll never guess who worked there. Clarence! I don't know if you remembered me, but I enjoy having the POS make me sandwiches for years. And there you have it, folks. The end of the epics. If you liked this video, be sure to leave a like as well as subscribe with notifications turned on. That way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. As always, my name is Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.